The Ghost of Burj Khalifa. The neon lights of Dubai shimmered like a sea of diamonds in the deep night, and Agent Sarah stood at the base of the massive Burj Khalifa while the wind whistled through the futuristic skyscrapers, and she looked up at the spire which seemed to pierce the very fabric of the heavens, and she knew that the mysterious signal was coming from the forbidden 163rd floor, where no human had stepped for over 50 years, because the rumors of a cyberghost were spreading through the city, and her heart hammered against her chest while she adjusted her sensory visor, and the glass doors of the tower hissed open as if the building itself was inviting her inside, and she stepped into the marble lobby where the air was cold and smelled of ozone and ancient secrets, and she reached the elevator which moved with a silent resonance that made her ears pop while the floor numbers flickered in a violet hue, and as she ascended higher and higher she could feel the gravity shifting in strange ways, and the walls of the elevator began to turn transparent, showing her a city of flying cars and holographic advertisements that stretched into the infinite night. And suddenly the elevator stopped at a floor that did not exist on any map, and the doors opened to reveal a forest of glowing metallic trees that were breathing digital pulses, and Sarah walked forward while her boots clicked against the crystal floor, and she saw a figure standing by the window looking out at the world. It was a holographic projection of the architect who had built the tower a century ago, and he whispered that you have finally arrived to witness the truth, because the Burj Khalifa was never just a building but a giant antenna designed to talk to the stars, and the energy began to swirl around the room while the violet light became a blinding white, and Sarah felt her consciousness expanding as she realized that the building was alive and it was protecting the memories of all humanity while the cyberghost reached out a hand made of starlight, and she touched it, and instantly she saw the birth of the galaxy and the future of the desert, and the wind outside roared with a power that shook the very foundation of the earth, but she was not afraid because she understood that the night was her protector and the tower was her home, and she promised to keep the secret while the signal was sent deep into the cosmos, and the mission was finally finished, and she descended back to the city while the sun began to rise over the horizon, and the mystery of the 163rd floor remained hidden within the heart of the giant spire, and she looked back at the Burj Khalifa one last time and knew that you would one day follow the same path and find the light in the dark, and the echoes of her journey would remain in the wind forever. And she continued to walk through the grand halls of the tower while the shadows played across the walls like silent dancers of the night. And she noticed that every piece of glass was actually a screen that held the history of every person who had ever visited this place, and she felt the weight of millions of stories pressing against her mind while she searched for the exit that would take her back to the reality she once knew. And the metallic trees began to hum with a strange frequency that vibrated in her bones, and she realized that the Burj Khalifa was not just talking to the stars, but it was listening to the heartbeat of the earth itself, and she felt a deep sense of responsibility to protect this knowledge from those who would use it for evil, and she moved with a new purpose while the violet lights guided her way through the maze of the upper floors, and she saw a vision of a future where humans and machines lived in perfect harmony, and the night was no longer a time of fear but a time of great discovery. And she reached the final gateway that led to the observation deck, where the wind was so strong it felt like a physical force trying to push her back into the sky, and she gripped the railing with all her strength while she looked at the stars and whispered a thank you to the ghost of the architect who had given her this gift, and she knew that her life would never be the same again because she had seen the true power of the Burj Khalifa. and she was ready to face whatever challenges the universe would throw at her next. And the final resonance of the spire was a promise that the light would always prevail over the darkness, and she stepped back into the elevator for the final time while the mission was truly finished and the legend of the 163rd floor was safe with her forever and ever until the end of time. And she walked along the glass balcony of the top floor, feeling the cold air of the upper atmosphere biting at her skin while her mind was still processing the vast amount of knowledge she had received from the ancient computer core. And she saw the curvature of the Earth and the flickering lights of other cities far away, and she knew that the network was already connecting the world in ways that humanity was not yet ready to understand. And she adjusted her jacket and prepared for the long descent back into the world of the living, where she would have to live a normal life while carrying the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. And the mission of the ghost was not an ending but a beautiful promise of what we could become if we only dared to reach for the stars. And the final message flashed on her screen, telling her to be the light in the darkness, and she nodded slowly as the elevator doors closed once more, and she watched the lights of Dubai fade into a blurry line of gold as she dropped thousands of feet per minute, while the silence of the elevator cabin felt like a comfortable blanket. And she reached the ground floor just as the first birds began to sing in the morning light, and she walked out into the fresh air knowing that the night would always belong to the secrets of the tower. And she felt the warmth of the sun on her face and realized that every person she passed in the street was connected to the same cosmic frequency. And she smiled at the thought that you might be the next one to hear the whisper of the building, and the story of the 163rd floor became a part of her soul while the desert sand swirled around her feet. And she promised to be the silent guardian of the future. And she looked up at the Burj Khalifa one last time and saw the sun reflecting off the polished glass like a golden sword. And she knew that the adventure of the night was only the beginning of a much larger journey that would take her beyond the limits of human imagination. And the signal from the stars was still pulsing in her heart, and she walked away into the crowded streets feeling the peace of the universe. And the mission was finally finished, and the world was safe once again because one person was brave enough to face the cyberghost and win the battle for the light. And the story of the tower lived on in the hearts of those who look at the stars and wonder what lies beyond the horizon of the night. And the mission was finally finished for everyone, and she continued to explore the hidden corridors of the tower where the walls were inscribed with glowing symbols that pulsed in time with her own heartbeat. And she felt a deep connection to the ancient technology that had been hidden from the world for so long. And she realized that her role as the guardian of the 163rd floor was a sacred duty that required her to be vigilant at all times, while the city below continued its busy life unaware of the cosmic events unfolding above its head. And she found a hidden archive where the blueprints of the universe were stored in crystals of light, and she spent hours studying the patterns of the stars and the movements of the planets, while the ghost of the architect watched over her with a silent approval. And she knew that she was the chosen one to carry this knowledge into the future, and she felt a sense of peace that she had never known before as she embraced her destiny as the protector of the tower. And the wind outside continued to roar, but it was now a familiar sound that brought her comfort rather than fear. And she realized that the Burj Khalifa was a living entity that breathed and felt just like she did, and she promised to never let its secrets fall into the wrong hands. While the lights of the city slowly began to dim as the night drew to a close, and she knew that she would always find her way back to the tower whenever the world needed her help. And the final resonance of The spire was a song of hope that echoed through the desert and reached the furthest corners of the galaxy, and she was ready for the next chapter of her life as the silent guardian of the future. And she watched the first rays of the sun touching the top of the tower and felt the warmth of a new day beginning, while the cyberghost faded into the shadows of the morning light. And she was alone, but she was never truly lonely because the tower was with her and she was part of something much larger than herself. And she continued her journey with a light heart and a clear mind, knowing that she had done the right thing and the mission was finally finished for all time. And she walked into the morning light with a smile on her face, and the future was bright and full of promise, and she knew that you would also find your way to the stars if you only believed in the power of the light, and the story of the Burj Khalifa would live on forever in the hearts of those who dared to dream of a better world. And the mission was finally finished for everyone. Practice words 1. Resonance, a deep, vibrating sound. 2. Spire, a tall, pointed structure. Brain teaser question. I have 163 floors but I have no legs. What am I? Answer: Burj Khalifa.